Now available in paperback. Those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to wander in the darkness of eternal night. Get your copy of Eternal Night at online booksellers today. Last week, Whoopi Goldberg was suspended from her co-host position on the ABC series The View for 2 weeks. And your Whoopi Goldberg was suspended for 2 weeks for making the statement that the Holocaust that happened during World War II to Jews was not about race, but was all about man's inhumanity against man. Now, many took offense to Whoopi Goldberg's statement and they demanded her termination. However, the head of ABC News, a black woman, just decided to give her a suspension for 2 weeks. Now, when I take a critical examination of the suspension of Whoopi Goldberg, it was basically a warning to her not to speak unless her slave masters tell her to speak. And this is a mistake that Whoopi Goldberg made because your Whoopi Goldberg believes that she's an honorary white person, and as an honorary white person, she has the right to speak like a white person on white-owned media platforms. Now, this isn't the first time your Whoopi Goldberg has gotten into trouble regarding racial issues, and your Whoopi Goldberg back in the 90s supported your Ted Danson when he put on blackface during a Friars roast. And during that time in the 90s, that's when I stopped liking Whoopi Goldberg because I had believed that she had gone too far in supporting racists, and she had probably gotten to that point where she thought she had arrived after winning that Oscar for Ghost, and now she thought she was an honorary white person. And this has always been Whoopi Goldberg's big mistake, is thinking that she is in with these white supremacists in Hollywood and that these people will give her a pass for going out here and saying whatever she wants. No, the white supremacist will only let you say what they want you to say, and only if it fits their narrative. If you aren't saying what they want that doesn't fit their narrative, that's when they come out here and look to punish you. And that's what's happened here in the case of your Whoopi Goldberg. She went out here and thought she had the free speech on these white-owned media platforms to say whatever she wanted to say without her having to deal with any sort of consequences or repercussions the same way a wealthy white male has that power to do so. No, a black person who is working for a white supremacist institution does not have the right to say what they want to say on said platform because those white supremacists are the ones writing the checks that pay you, and when you go outside of their narrative, what they will do is they will make an effort to punish you by making sure that you don't get any more of their money. Now, these white supremacists in Hollywood, they must still have a use for Whoopi Goldberg, because if they didn't have a use for Whoopi Goldberg, they wouldn't have just given her a 2-week suspension. No, they would have terminated your Whoopi Goldberg and called it a day. But they still probably have some sort of use for Whoopi Goldberg, and that's why they're just giving her a warning at this point that you don't say anything unless it's approved by us, and that is how you do business with us. Now, when we look at your Whoopi Goldberg's suspension in comparison with your Roseanne, we clearly see that there's possibly a double standard as related to how things are done here. Now, your Roseanne came on Twitter a couple of years ago, and she made a statement about Valerie Jarrett being something as related to the Planet of the Apes, and ABC quickly terminated Roseanne off of her show, The Conners, and it became The Conners, because it was a Roseanne reboot, and it became The Conners after Roseanne was terminated. And some people are seeing hypocrisy as related to what happened between Roseanne and Whoopi Goldberg. But what I'm seeing is that your Hollywood institution still probably has a need for a Whoopi Goldberg, whereas they did not have much need for a Roseanne, so they just quickly got rid of a Roseanne. Then there are others who compare Gina Carano, who also was terminated after making some statements on Twitter, and seeing again the same double standard. And that's possibly what's there, but the whole thing is that white supremacy, whenever they need a toy, they will keep playing with that toy until it's time to break it. And that's what they're doing here with Whoopi Goldberg. Again, sending her a message that if you get out of line again, this will possibly be the end. So they know that they've got a scared female right here, and they know that they can just go out here and send her a little warning because your Whoopi Goldberg is loyal to the white supremacists in Hollywood. So they're basically trying to give her a warning not to get out of line again. Now, the statement that Whoopi Goldberg made is one that is quite controversial because some people, they want to say that Jews are not a race, but the whole thing is that Hitler wanted to exterminate Jews because he wanted to create a master race. And that is what makes your Whoopi Goldberg statement completely dysfunctional, because your Hitler was not about committing a crime of man against humanity. No, your Hitler was a racist who wanted to create a master race, and he thought that Jews were inferior, and because he thought Jews were inferior, he could go out here and exterminate Jews just because he thought he was better than Jews. So it was about race as related to Adolf Hitler, and the whole thing is that your Whoopi Goldberg really does not understand what your Adolf Hitler was all about, because your Adolf Hitler not only wanted to murder Jews, he also wanted to murder the mentally disabled, he wanted to murder homosexuals, he wanted to murder black people, and he also wanted to murder your Poles and Slavs, other whites who he felt did not meet his standard for being an Aryan. And the great irony of this is that your Adolf Hitler never met any of those standards. And what's even more ironic is that this whole controversy revolving around Whoopi Goldberg is taking place at the Walt Disney Corporation, a company run by Walt Disney, who historically was a known anti-Semitic and a known white supremacist. So this whole situation with Whoopi Goldberg is a troubling one for her, but it just shows how your white supremacists know how to keep their house slaves in line, and all they have to do is yank their privileges away from said house slave, and said house slave will fall in line. Now, the hosts of The View, they say that they would resign based on certain, Whoopi Goldberg said she would resign, and I believe that's just a statement out of emotion, because Whoopi Goldberg knows who she has to go for her daily bread, and because she knows who she has to go to for her daily bread, she's just gonna make an emotional statement, but she's gonna go right back to those slave masters. And once she goes back to those slave masters, she's gonna be buck dancing and bojangling like she usually does, tap dancing for her Disney slave masters, saying what they want to say, and probably going back to make sure she gets the approval of said slave masters. Now, what's really interesting about this whole situation, again, is that the head of ABC News and ABC in general are both black women, and neither of those black women stood up for your Whoopi Goldberg in any way, shape, or form. Whenever the social media mob and the mainstream media executives came down, those black women just rubber stamped the policy, and they sent your Whoopi Goldberg to get that 2-week suspension, basically again showing us that even though black women are running ABC, white supremacy still controls the network and still controls the narrative, And because they control the network and the narrative, they went out of their way to punish Whoopi Goldberg for speaking against a group that practically has a lot of power in executive positions. And that's the real message that's sent here, that this black celebrity, who she should not get out of line, because if you get out of line, they're going to make sure that you suffer economically. And that is the message that was sent, that when your Whoopi Goldberg went out here and spoke and thought she could say what she want to say, but you can't say what you want to say in this entertainment industry. And I know this from studying it for over 25 years, that you have to really watch what you say on these platforms, because if you say the wrong thing, your career could be over just like that. And that's what your Whoopi Goldberg's big mistake was thinking she was an honorary white person, thinking that these white people loved her. But the whole thing is that these white people only use her as a tool to promote whatever they want. And the thing that they want for her on The View for is to be the token black person who just sits there to go along, to get along, and to promote the idea of diversity passively, while aggressively they promote the same old discrimination that goes on. Because I find it interesting, we never see any sort of shows targeting black men on ABC, and we don't see any black men's views on platforms like The View. No, we don't get to see that, because your mainstream media doesn't want you to see anything except your mammies like Mammy Whoopi. And once they get you to watch Mammy Whoopi, that's all they want you to see. So your Mammy Whoopi, she went out here and tried to go out here and thinking that she was an honorary white woman, and basically they just gave her an N-word moment and sent her to let her know how black she actually is. So that's what happened here, and that's the message that's being sent as related to Whoopi's actions. It's basically a reprimand letting her know that if she gets out of line, she will be punished. And the next time, I guarantee you, if she speaks out of line, they're definitely probably going to terminate her at that point. And at her age, at this point, she can't afford to lose a job, because once you go from here, at this age that she is, there is no coming back. And she knows that there are not that many paid gigs out here. So I guarantee you, Bootlick Whoopi will be out here licking and shining boots and doing whatever her slave masters tell her to do if she gets back on the show. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find it on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find SJS Direct books on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Blast from the Past. Hell's aspiring angel takes on her demonic doppelganger in this action-packed, time-traveling E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Blast from the Past with a bonus E-Steam comic book, No Good Deed, in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.